In the speed climb, our competitors must climb a 60-foot pole, make sure their rope crosses the line at the top of the pole, and then race to the bottom, often in free fall. They must touch the pole with their climbing gaffs every 20 feet on the way down. Don't blink, this happens fast.
We are going to be moving fast from the very first quarterfinal match in the men's speed climb. This should be a good one. The 8th-seeded Sean Duffy from Ashland, Wisconsin, district attorney by profession, going up against the track coach from Oswego, Oregon, Brian Bartow. Bartow on the right, Duffy on the left, and Bartow, of course, last year's defending champion. The STIHL Timbersport Series presented by Carhartt, and Duffy having all sorts of trouble here. Meanwhile, Brian Bartow making it look very, very easy, and by the full length of the spar, he is going to defeat Sean Duffy. Let's take one more look at Bartow's effort here. That 6'3" frame just eating up the wood there, all the way down that spar, and an easy dismount, lands on his feet. Brian Bartow will advance our second quarterfinal matchup. Two good climbers from a place with a big climbing tradition. British Columbia on the right, Wade Stewart going up against, on the green spar on the left, Sterling Hart. And it's Sterling Hart with a good start on this one right here. Sterling Hart, the younger competitor. Wade Stewart giving up a few years, and right now he's given up some time to Sterling Hart, and a very easy victory for him as well. Take another quick look at Sterling Hart in action. You have to run clean, mistake-free. That is exactly what Sterling Hart accomplishes here. A plant perfect in each one of the 20-foot section of this 60-foot spar. Sterling Hart is going to advance with the greatest of ease. We are set up for a good semifinal here. Of course, Brian Bartow, his time of 13 seconds even. He makes it, and Sterling Hart getting past Wade Stewart to face Bartow.
Right now we're going to watch the third quarterfinal matchup in the men's speed climbing. Shane Sabin versus Cassidy Shear. That's Sabin on the green spar. Shear right there on the red spar. Shear, like many of these competitors, using those toe gaffs, an adaptation of the traditional lineman's gaffs that allow them to use more of the legs, supposedly. He's got a very controlled ascent. That's kind of his trademark. And now as he comes down, well, we are hanging those gaffs in those sections of the spar. And did he even get to click in the last section? That's remaining to be seen.
Well, I mentioned Cassidy wasn't going to expend any more energy than he needed to. And he gets to the top, and then coming out, his first spur stuck. He started to lose control, corkscrewing around that pole, but he got a set in that bottom 20 feet to get an official time.
So Cassidy Shear takes that quarterfinal over his fellow Hayward, Wisconsin native, Shane Sabin. Well, here we go with our fourth quarterfinal match. Winner's going to face Cassidy Shear. Our veteran here, Guy German, Omaha, Nebraska, into his 50s, well into his 50s now, and still competing in this most demanding event, going up against a number 2 man from last year. That would be Hayward, Wisconsin's Derek Knudsen.
Climbers and judges ready, competitors ready, official start tone sequence.
Well, there goes Knudsen as expected with his explosive start. Guy German trying to keep up. You'll notice German, instead of the belt lanyard, he's got it attached to a shoulder roping system. That's for comfort, but it is Knudsen with the upper hand. An easy out, and he is easily going to take down Guy German in this quarterfinal matchup. It will be Knudsen moving on.
A very clean out for Derek, totally controlled coming down. He got to that last 20-foot line, put one spur in just below it, and then safely hit the pads.
That will do it. Our quarterfinals are wrapped up. The semis are set. Semi number 1, Brian Bartow versus Sterling Hart, and number 2, Cassidy Shear will take on Derek Knudsen. Ready for the real daredevils out here today. The men's speed climbing competition and semifinal 1 matchup. It's going to be Brian Bartow, last year's champion of the STIHL Timbersport Series presented by Carhartt, going up against Vancouver, British Columbia's Sterling Hart, another tough customer.
He really is, and I tell you what, 12.72 qualifier for Sterling, 11.9 for Bartow.
Bartow very, very athletic. He's the part-time track coach from Lake Oswego, Oregon.
Very clean start for both climbers. Bartow's quite a bit taller. He should have a better reach, but he's got to be controlled coming out.
Slight edge for Bartow, and he's down fast, and he's going on very much in control. Easily takes care of Sterling Hart. He will move on to the final.
Brian Bartow reaching beautifully, looking to the sky. He knows where he wants to get to with that rope, and as he crosses the orange line at the top, then the descent, very controlled. Tap, tap above that line, a couple there, and then landing on his feet with beautiful control. Not like his opponent who landed on his back. It'll always take longer to reach the pad if you turn sideways and land flat.
Ready to go now, second semifinal match of the men's speed climb. Cassidy Shear, great athletic performer, originally from Wisconsin, versus another Wisconsin native, and that is Derek Knudsen.
Something for Cassidy, though. In qualifying yesterday, he stuck a gaff in his hamstring on one of his legs, so he's running injured. You know, you can't give away anything when you're going up against a young fellow like Knudsen. We'll see how these two run.
Knudsen with the half a step on him, and Knudsen on the way down, just barely touched. That's a questionable out for Knudsen. I think the judges are going to take a look at that.
On the right again, Derek Knudsen reaching very well. This young man has been working hard to develop his skills. A lot of fitness training, a lot of strength training, reaches for the top, and then coming down just above that top line. And then it looked like he missed the middle section, but the judges deemed it a good run. He did set a spur. He gets the time, as Tommy said. He goes on to the finals.
How about last year's champion Derek Knudsen moving on? He'll face Brian Bartow in the finals of the men's speed climb. Well, there's Cassidy Shear. He's a real estate developer now in Central America, down in Costa Rica, but one of those Hayward, Wisconsin kids who grew up in the business pretty much, performed at all sorts of lumberjack shows, and Sterling Hart also performs for a living at lumberjack shows at his hometown, Grouse Mountain, Vancouver, British Columbia. Cassidy Shear on the red spar, Sterling Hart on the green. Oh, there's Hart has caught him now. Hart has now got the upper hand, and Hart will start down first. Very, very close. This one's going to be tight, but it will be Sterling Hart.
Cassidy on the red pole looked to get a great start and was past the 20-foot line early, but then just here he had a slip, and that's when Sterling Hart gassed it in and reached the top first. A big sweep with the rope and then hitting the pad for the win.
Well, a masterful effort by Canadian Sterling Hart to grab the bronze award here in Utah. Official time of 12.64. Well, this is it. Who will be the men's speed climbing champion in Utah? It's going to be Brian Bartow of Oregon, who will go up against last year's finals champion, Wisconsin's Derek Knudsen.
Well, it looked like Knudsen got a good jump there.
Very good start by Derek Knudsen. He's going to need it. Brian Bartow tends to eat up the wood on the way up there. Such a big, tall guy, and it's Knudsen. Boy, as he got this one, looks good. That's an upset. What a win for Derek Knudsen. Maybe his days of second place have come to an end.
Derek got a great start there, Tommy. As we noted, he was already past the 40-foot line, well ahead of Brian. When Derek reached the top, he must have had one spur in that pole when the rope crossed the orange line at the top, and then he free fell for the first 20 feet, setting a gaff in the second 20, then in the bottom 20 before he hit the pads.